This is the first of the 66 Bassmen that came in, and all the work that I knew I would need to do has been done. Now it's to the point where I have to find the remaining issues that I couldn't hear or test until it got to this point. So I'm happy to say that all the tubes the owner provided seem to be fine. Here's the normal channel clean. And let's crank this bad boy just real quick. Guitar's a little out of tune, sorry about that. Here's the normal channel. That's with the master volume. It's a very different master volume than the one that came in with. I'll show that later when I'm happy with everything else in the amp. But I'll show you the remaining issues in this amp. Like all AB165s, I'm a little bit concerned about some of the wires which are beneath the board. Some of the wire runs down there can absorb moisture and contaminants and lose their insulation properties. So a little bit of microphonics in this area, which may be some of those wires, but I won't know until I replace these grid wires, which are a little bit microphonic on both channels. Yeah, noticeably microphonic. So between the fact that these wires are microphonic and that these wires in particular run beneath the board here with other noisy wires crossing them, I won't know what the actual noise floor of this amp is until I replace these with shielded. On the normal channel, there's pretty good pop when I engage this switch. Now I've got a resistor added there to depop that switch. It should not be making that noise, and that switch has been cleaned several times, so it needs a new switch. No scratchiness on the volume, bass, or treble, so that's good. And I think that remaining noise will go away once the wires are shielded. Now on to the normal channel. Big pop when I use the bright switch. That should not be there. I suspect it's a noisy switch. No static sounds, so the pot's cleaned up nicely. There's no DC. I got all the DC out of the board. That was a process. Let me do one test to see if this has the same issue the other one has. Yeah, this pot's not very good. If I touch the wiper to chassis, I get a hum. If I touch the chassis to the ground lug, I get nothing, which means that there is a difference. It's not going all the way to ground. Let me check on this one over here. That one's fine. So this one needs a new volume pot over here, probably 2 new switches. It's possible that that bright cap needs to be replaced, though it's rare. And then once all that's done, so I'll have a new volume pot, new switches, new shielded wires. At that point, I'll know whether any of the wires beneath the board need to be replaced, just because they get old and funky. This one's in better shape in terms of the cloth wires than the other one, which has seen things, man. But, you know, everything can be fixed. Once I'm done with the amp, I'll show every little bit of what I did. You know, there's new filter caps, rebuilt all that stuff, rebuilt the bias board, master volume, had to change out the output sockets, everything there. And this one in particular has got some oddities with its power transformer. But we'll get there in a later video. For right now, I'm pleased with where we're at, and I know I can get it better. With both volumes off, There's no rushing water sound, so that's good. I can just hear a little hum, which should not be there at all. And I want this thing to be dead silent when the volumes are off, and I know what to do. This is the second 66 Bassmen. This is the one that does not have the master volume. And I'll let you hear where it's at right now. On the normal channel, we got cleans. We got the nice dirty stuff. All the pots are non-scratchy now, with one exception I'll get to. So here's the normal channel clean. Back down the bass, do that again. Anyway, as you can hear with that up, there's a buzz on this channel, and it's always there in the background. That's really bothering me. And it's there even with that volume at 0. And I suspect that is due both to the unshielded grid wires from the pot wiper and the input jack going to here. And it's also because these two wires run underneath the board to get to here, and coming this way on the bottom of the board are several wires which tend to be a little noisy in the AB165. There's a wire from here to here. There's a wire from here to here. There's a wire from here going to this grid. And sometimes, just like the rest of the cloth insulation, the wires underneath the board suck up moisture and contaminants over the years, and the insulation does less and less. So I may need to redo some of that bottom of the board stuff, and what I tend to do on that, unless the owner wants it 100% stock, is I bring all those wires up above the board and do twisted wires, much like you see here. It's better to have the wires cross at a distance from everything else as opposed to running along everything else. It's a weakness of this amp. You've got the same issue with microphonic grids being subject to noise on this channel as well, the bass channel. Not nearly as much because it's not being routed by any noisy things. This one routes through some noisy stuff. The other issue is this volume pot is bad. And the easy way I can tell that is if I have it off and I connect the chassis to the wiper, hum comes in. And that's at 0, so it should be ground. It should be the same as touching here. It's not. That pot has just seen better days. On that subject, there's a little bit of clicky clack here when I engage the bright switch, even though it's been cleaned. That may be an old defective switch, may be exacerbating the issue with that pot. And then on this normal channel volume, that is a dirty switch. You can see I added a little 1 meg resistor here, which takes the pop off that switch. It's something that Fender added to later Bassmen amps, but on the first ones they lack it, and so that switch tends to pop a lot. I've got a resistor there. Shouldn't pop at all. It is just a little bit. So I think 2 new switches and a new pot and some shielded wire, and this amp will be sounding fantastic. So it's always fun with these things. And I don't remember if I mentioned all the tubes that came with this amp were original to the amp, and none of them were usable. They were all microphonic, terribly so. So I will be consulting with the owner about getting some new tubes for this amp.